Hello everybody and welcome back to artofdino.com and saveearth.us, and I've got the conclusion to the engravings, the copper engravings from this book that my last several videos have been on, because there's so much to cover in this, it's ridiculous. Every time I translate a random page, I end up wanting to find out what's before it, what's after it, where it goes, what happened, and all that stuff. So this is another one that's kind of prep for anyone that's reading the book or wants to take the time to translate it and then read it, or at least sections. So I'm going to go over the second half of the engravings. These ones are a little bit less. They're a little bit smaller of descriptions and still incredibly fascinating. It's still about half of them. There's at least probably 15 drawings. And then I want to go over the table of contents to end this video. And that will show you guys what is in this book at what pages, so that you, if you want to dive deeper, you can hone in on whatever section you want. This and that last video should be a perfect combination that will lead you to basically exactly hone in on what you think is best and what section is, so you don't have to waste time on sections or random pages that could be good or not. You can just go right to the sections after watching this video. So check it out. The link is listed below, and again, this is jam-packed. I need other people helping me out to discover the secrets of this book, so you never know what we're going to find. And again, you have to factor in the translations, but I mean, to be honest, they seem pretty close to accurate to me. I botched the title in one of them that a fellow commenter pointed out, but the rest of it seems pretty good. And sometimes I'll test it once, or I'll do the same kind of translation twice to see what happens, and it comes up pretty similar. So when they come up different the second time, that's when you have to be a little concerned, which sometimes it does. So keep that all in mind. But here we go. Copper plate for page 316. You're going to see the artworks right after and as I'm describing them. This is for 316. The first one you'll see, it says, "Here we find two households of savages, namely one from southward and one from midnight America." I got to figure out what that is. "The dwelling of the former is a hut, only half of which is visible. The Caribbean lies in his hammock, beneath which a small fire has been lit. Of the 5 Caribbean women, one scrapes manioc, the other crushes it, the third sieves the dough made from manioc, the fourth makes bread from cassava, and the fifth carries wood under the stove. The dwelling opposite represents an open Iroquois cabin in which a woman making sagamite and a child are seen frying a fish in an ear of Indian grain. Outside the cabin are 3 women, one pounding Indian grain in a wooden mortar, another crushing grain between 2 stones, and the third working on a sack in which dough is to be kept. Below are some ears of Indian grain, the manioc plant, and the potato root. On the other side, one sees a press used to extract the manioc juice, which is also filtered through the snake skin, a mold of which can be found on a figure hanging from the hut." So again, check out all of the details of these as I am describing them. This next one on page 331 says, "This contains 2 things, a general council meeting of the Floridians and a trial of the warriors capable of undertaking a campaign. Their chief sits on the throne amidst the elders, nobles, and warsayers (parentheses, jugglers), who seem to be distinguished by their short coats. A standing man gives a speech and then brings each one of the cassine bowl, which he is to empty. On one side, the women are preparing the cassine. On the other, however, one sees a man wrapped in women's clothing, whom I esteemed equal to the priests of Cybele or Uranian Venus, and who are considered hermaphrodites by the Europeans. I was initially of the opinion that the Europeans were led to give them this name by some appearance, because they mistakenly considered them to be true hermaphrodites, but now I believe there is some basis for this error, even in the name these people give to this kind of priest. By this they very precisely define their mixed state, namely, the inanimate in respect of their actuality, but the feminine state in respect of their clothing and profession, from which arises an androgynous, but also entirely mystical combination. Herodotus contradicts this opinion of mine, for in the 4th book of Numbers, 67, he calls androgyna certain men among the Scythians who were called Anares or Ivares, who were dressed as women, and who, by dedicating themselves to the service of Venus Urania, had received from her a special power of prophecy. These people correspond exactly to this type of Americans." So that is very interesting, because what on earth are they talking about? And I mean, the hermaphrodites we see, they're obviously a lot today, and different things that they're like trying to force on people, but this kind of implies that there was almost like a chosen one, like a chosen birth, a miracle birth of some kind, kind or something different in a particular birth, or maybe just guided from birth, that led these people to become almost different, have a different presence, have a different powers, magic, whatever. But something definitely interesting about this whole concept. And are nowadays, are they trying to like create these people, or trying to manufacture this kind of ancient practice, or are they bringing it back? Who knows? But the second part of that same page says, the second representation of this engraving shows the way of preparing chica puaco, or cowin, just as it is drunk, which the French call wine, faire un vin. Here the fortune tellers are also recognizable by their short coats. Next, we have some smaller descriptions and some quicker kind of little things showing another good amount of mystery of the old school world. So this, on page 340, you are about to see. It says it also contains two things. One, a religious dance in Virginia. I have not dealt with this because it is mentioned extensively in Schmidt's and in all accounts of Virginia. So maybe we'll have to check that out, because there is a lot of old school stuff about Virginia. Something magic happened there. It was the center of something. Probably the old world American capital. Who knows? I don't know. That could have been anywhere. Number two, part of this says, of 340, says a representation of a part of the Brazilian dance described by Leary and cited by me in the treatise itself. So that one, again, showing different religious dances and the similarities, one from Brazil, one from Virginia. And again, what was the ones in California like? What were all of them like? Everywhere. Utah, wherever, Mississippi. These people were everywhere. Page 348, way of preparing maple sugar. The women are busy looking for vessels already full of the water running from the trees and pouring it into large kettles, whereupon one woman oversees. Meanwhile, another sits and kneads the thickened water with her hands, which can now be formed into the shape of sugar gloves. Beyond the cabin and the trees are fields as they usually are at the end of winter. There, one sees women putting them back in order and sowing the Indian grain in the manner I have described. Interesting. Page 367. This copper, divided into two parts, represents an old Marco man, completely armored with wicker baskets, and a savage, similarly armed from head to toe with wood and tree bark. The Marco man is taken from the Giulio Cesare of the latest edition, English edition, and the savage from the Champlain Voyage, according to the Paris edition, number 1632. Between the two is the booklet or sign of recruitment among the savages, which is compared with the symbols of antiquity called tesserae or tepherae. I have enclosed some illustrations of this. The first is a symbol of the Christians from the Cabinet S. Genevieve. The others are taken from La Chauffe Museo Romano. The coin below it represents a woman holding one of these symbols in one hand in a cornucopia with the inscription Liberalatis Aug in the other, and is from Balbine. These symbols can be found on various other imperial coins. 2. A party of soldiers is leaving their villages. Their leader goes ahead and begins the funeral song. Not sure what that sounded like, but I bet it was ridiculous and probably passed on throughout time. It probably had a feel and an energy to it that was just unparalleled. I mean, for that purpose, it has to be. Here we go, page 373. Both of the following engravings concern the navigation of the American peoples. The first image is an Eskimo canoe, as described in the treatise. Above, some monuments of ancient Egypt are drawn, among which one can see some small paper vessels, similar to the tree bark vessels used by savages. Montvaucan Antiquité Expliquée engravings. The other image is a raft of dry gourds, which are shaped and well stoppered. Below, one sees an inhabitant of Peru performing a dance. On this one, page 378, waterfalls. Here one sees rivers cascading down from various heights on the ground. In the distance, a waterfall appears, made impassable by its extraordinary height. The savages are forced to seek the riverbank long before they reach this fall and carry their canoes and equipment until they have passed this waterfall. A river whose banks are straight and level flows quietly past a dray, where on a bank one notices two savages working on a pirogue, two canoes in the style of the Abanaguis, or Abanaqua, not sure, and another in the style of the Outsukas. And all those translations are you can consider them pretty much botched. They can get a little bit close to what the real one is, but that's a tough one to translate. Below it is a fast current that one can paddle upstream. The two savages go down and two others go out, keeping close to the bank so that they can reach the bottom with their oars. page 379, which we are about to come to. And again, there's similarities between navigation. They were using rivers. They were using all this stuff. And again, I truly feel that this place was massively inhabited, massively technical. The reset happened, which blew everything to shreds. And then these are the people that were kind of building back slowly and naturally from whenever and whatever occurred then. That's just my take. And then these guys were observing it then. But the true power and the majesty of the ancient Americas almost seems like it's forever lost. Page 379, Journey on the Snow and Winter Camp. Here appear the savages carrying their equipment in straps on their backs, and others dragging it behind them on loops. The engraver has forgotten to wrap them in their blankets as required by the season. Others who have already arrived at the appointed place are setting up cabins. Some are trying to put the kettles over the fire and chop wood. Others, however, are making fire in their own way by drilling or drilling. The topmost naquit is well struck and very similar. Not sure what that is, but figure that out. Page 394, Siege of a Fortress or Fortified Village. The engraving is self-explanatory, so no lengthy explanation is required. So let's just say, wow, I guess they are about to attack that fortified village, and that's what they consider a fortified village. I'm not sure if, again, that could be part of the propaganda. Look, all these sticks. Meanwhile, in reality, it's a bunch of buildings and stones that are ancient. So the engraver is apparently making mistakes in a few different spots. So we can't always trust the engravings, which is, again, important to understand. 398, Capture of the prisoners and their entry into the village. The first part describes the manner in which the prisoners are kept and watched at night. At the side, a warrior is seen preparing a chevelure, a headdress, detached from an enemy in the manner shown in Chapter 6. The second part depicts prisoners who have been subjected to the unpleasant welcome with which they are met upon arrival in the village of their conquerors or their allies. The entry begins with those of the conquerors carrying the detached headdresses. These are followed by three prisoners holding a tortoise in one hand and a stick blown with swan feathers in the other. The inhabitants of the village have formed two lines armed with sticks and are ready to welcome their guests. Amazing. This one, page 405, The Death Penalty of Prisoners in Midnight America. Number 2, the death penalty of prisoners in Midnight America. Les Stairs includes three different actions. On one side, a woman paints the slave, but opposite, another paints the bouton or club with which he is to be killed. In the middle, however, the manner in which he is executed is depicted. Does not look like fun, and again, you never know what the backgrounds would be. These guys, the engraver might have just made neutral backgrounds, whereas there could be things very important in the true background of some of these things, or in the true shape and form and structure of all of them. So here we go, another one, page 422. This representation concerns the embassies and actions of the savages of Midnight America. 1. In the top one implores a savage who speaks through his porcelain cord. This, which he holds in his hand, is depicted larger at the bottom. Very interesting. The other is a performance of the Calumet dance. In the middle of a blanket is the Manitou, or protective god, in the form of a snake, in whose honor this dance is held, along with the weapons with which the fighting is to take place. The spectators and musicians form a circle around which the two warriors can be seen standing. Wow, very, 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 very cool. This makes me wonder too if, things like that porcelain cord and other like instruments of war, of music, of all these things, I wonder if, they were finding things all over the place. So some artifacts remained, hence some of the things that are a little more elaborate from the past civilization. And then other times they would have things and then they would rebuild them. So they'd learn from them, they'd reverse engineer them, and then they'd make them in their own way when the other ones that were old and from the old world would run out or not be able to be used anymore. And again, how can we attribute some of these inventions may have come from the psychedelic state or a sleeping dream state, as many Indians have said. And again, that just points to their connection to the magic that we have all lost. And again, there's so many different factors that must be encountered with all this stuff, because history can be rewritten so easily. This, again, I love this book. It seems great, but it could have been there to turn everyone make them look like savages, present the engravings that take them down a notch, that put a bunch of sticks up where a stone structure was, or a brick something. Who knows? I really don't. But here we go. These ones are really quick. The last bits of the drawings in this book, page 433, Stone Astragalus or Dice Game. The first is played by women and the other by men, as I have described it. So they probably describe it near that chapter, so we'll have to maybe check that out. If you want that section, go near, remember, go near any of these artworks, or I tell what the pages is if you want to find out more, and they'll explain it if you translate the surrounding pages. This one, 439, spheristic, sphere or ball game and other exercises. The first is a club game, and the other, the one which I explained in the treatise. In the distance one sees some savages practicing archery at the target. So that one, they got golf in there, they got all these archery, they got all these different things. And again, are they left over from the old world, or are they invented by these people and passed down through time? And then we make them today and say, oh, this guy invented, this Freemason invented that one, and blah, blah, blah. Page 456, a sick person cured by the art of fortune-telling and a dead man exhibited. The sick person in the hands of the fortune-tellers is led with slow steps over a long row of glowing coals, while meanwhile the housekeeper is busy dancing. Above appears the fortune-telling cabana, which I mentioned as being reminiscent of the Delphic 3 feet similarly. Delphic Oracle, maybe. 2. A dead person prepared for burial and placed on a raised scaffold. Those present mourn his death and pay attention to his eulogy, which is delivered by a vel-tester who is presented standing. Interesting. Page 467. Death of the confidant of the chief, or of the foremost woman among the Natchez nation in Louisiana. The completely open temple shows at the end of the bodies of the chiefs, which are ceremoniously preserved there. The one to whom the last honor is paid is laid on a stone located at the entrance to the temple. 2 choirs depicted at the front perform a religious dance, during which those who are supposed to keep the deceased company are strangled so that they can be of service to him in the next world. Yikes. And now to witness that would be really something crazy, like just them taking life that simply, that like easily, that almost pretty much unnecessarily. That's kind of wild to see something like that. And I wonder, again, who saw it, if it's this author or others in the past that have written about it. You never really know, I guess. And what was that temple made of? Are they things that they found? Pieces that they found? It almost looks like a piece of Petra, like it's just kind of in the middle of nowhere. But you never know. Again, did they build it? Did they make it out of wood? Did they make it out of stone? Did they repurpose it? Who knows? So here we go. We got this one right here. This is page 470. Funeral ceremonies among the Iroquois. The dead man is raised on the stretcher on which he was brought and laid down near the grave prepared for him. Next to him are all the small implements that are to be placed in the grave. The master of ceremonies holds in both hands the staffs with which the fencers, both men and women, practice, who are to honor the funeral with a fight. After the fight, a prize is awarded to the victor. There we go, a little brawl, for a little funerary brawl. Very interesting. They've got the hold. They bury him with things that they like, kind of similar to us. Again, is that something that's been passed on forever, or just a natural part of being a human? I mean, I buried my grandmother with a deck of cards and things like that. You know, I wonder if they did similar things. Page 472, the second to last one, this shows special ceremonies with respect to those who have frozen to death or drowned. So each death requires a different thing, and maybe that's because it requires a different type of method to help that person pass along. Maybe they need a new song. Maybe the soul lingers and they need to hear a certain thing, or they soothe, they're comforted. So much possibilities that we need to use our imaginations for, because people didn't in the past, and these things have been erased, and we have to really start over and re-envision things from their perspective, not from the ancient other observers' perspective, which most of the times was wrong. We have to rethink it in a way that, makes sense with our gut. Last one, page 484, general funeral feast among the Iroquois and Huron. The description of this is so detailed that no further explanation is required here. So take a look at that place, the pit, a bunch of groups gathering together. There's so many things. There's a hole. There's all that stuff around it. What were they doing there? Who knows? But go near page 484 and they will most likely tell you what is going to happen. But again, all those pictures, great engravings, great artwork, so much cool stuff to see, and so much more to discover and as we look on in the book. So this is the treatises in the first section of this work. I'll show you right here. So now you can take a look at it. Take a look at all these things on war and religion, on government, on occupations of men, women, pastimes, games, illnesses, medicines, death, language. I'd like to find out more. And then all these different discovery sections in the treatises, the discoveries of the New World and settlements. There are guaranteed to be gems in this book all over the place. So take a look at this section right here especially and dive into whatever you need. Go to Google Translate, photo or screenshot the pictures, drop them in Google Translate one at a time, save them all, and read and look back and forth and take a look at what the different things are. If you're from any of these places, you might want to learn Puerto Rico, Cuba, the Antilles, progress of the discovery and conquest of Golden Castile from Darien to Panama. That's one that I'm definitely going to look on. Main chapter 2, tracing the discoveries and settlements of the Spaniards on the islands and continental land of America. Description of terra firma on page 629. And then the second book, further discoveries and conquest of the Spaniards, discovery and conquest of Mexico. And again, keep in mind, this says part 1. This whole book, this whole 600 plus page book says just part 1. So there's a part 2 somewhere out there, and I'm going to look for it and see what I can find, because I have a feeling the very conclusion must be beautiful. What he does both of these books for, you can tell he's building towards an inevitable conclusion that could be gone, could be eliminated, but let's see if we can find it. If you can, link it below, and stay tuned. I'll do some more. Probably next one will probably be just a collection of gems from this book. But if you guys find any passages, let me know. Share them with me. Email me at artofdino@gmail.com, or find me any other way, and check out www.artofdino.com and saveearth.us. Bless you all, and thank you all for checking it out. Share it if you want.